Hey guys, and welcome back to another video of ECK Sports, and today I am back at it with another video, and this time I'm going to be giving you my MLW 2024 roster rankings. However, this video is going to work a little bit differently than your regular power rankings video, as it is based solely on roster talent. So chemistry, previous records, schedule, all that stuff does not matter. It is all about the talent. What I'm doing here is I am adding up a score, rating every player. That is going to be your starting lineup. So 4 hitters, 2 pitchers, and a depth score out of 3. All the hitters and pitchers will be assigned a score. If you're elite, you get a 9, great 7, very good 6, good 5, solid 4, okay 3, and 1 weak. Starting off at number 8, no surprise, is the Coastal Cobras. This team has a lot of questions after the draft, especially with the draft pick of Justin Esch and trading away what could have been Jeremy Adams for Justin Esch and Caden Irwin. Baranowski had a very rough season last year. Caden Irwin, very inaccurate, very drop ball reliant, as is Baranowski, so you're going to see a lot of drop balls coming from those two, just like you were with Baranowski and BN. Hitting wise, the worst offense in MLW last year. Then you got Drew Davis, who has kind of just been a slightly above average hitter ever since 2021. And I'm thinking the 4 hitter is going to be Andy Duran, who I'm only giving a 1 just because he hasn't played wiffle ball since 2022, and the last time he did play wiffle ball in 2022, he was not that good. And their depth is okay. They have depth. It's nothing too special. None of those guys are good starters, so it is going to be an overall score of 23. Coming in at number 7 is going to be the worst team in MLW last year, the Great Lakes Gators. Now, this team made a few offseason trades, as they traded former captain Brendan Zerlag for Sawyer Bien, and they also traded Brendan Jorgensen in return for the second pick, which became Jeremy Adams. New leadership with Chris Cheatham, I think, will be big for this team. Pitching wise, even though Sawyer is projected to be the ace, I think Cheatham's going to end up retaking that in slate 2, maybe even slate 3. Cheatham's got to be better than last year. I'm giving him a 4 just because of how great he was in the prior 3 years. Jeremy Adams is a fantastic hitter, been successful at U17. He's been successful at tournaments in his own league. Could be a Rookie of the Year frontrunner. And then Chatty and BN, pretty much just average hitters at this point. Contact guys, I wouldn't expect too much from them. Gators will get a depth score of 1 because I like their addition of Aiden Richard. That will give them an overall score of 27. Coming in surprisingly at number 6 is going to be the reigning MLW champion Metro Magic. I'll start with the pitching, and I think both of these guys have big questions. In the past, a lot of the time, you have a rookie comes into the league, looks amazing, has a breakout season. Chatty, Cheatham, Barron, even though that was year 2, they all regress the next year pitching-wise. And then Trevor Bonham is also bound to regress, I think, just because his pitching style is not very sustainable, in my opinion. I know it worked last year. It did not work in 2022. I don't know if his hitting is sustainable either. He relies heavily on those walks. Jack, kind of the same thing, but strikeouts way too much. He did have a power surge at the end of last season, but we see it a lot. Kind of every other year, Jack Agner really struggles. AJ, we'll have to see if his performance from the World Series can carry over. And then obviously Grant Miller's the best hitter in MLW. For the depth, I mean, they have depth, which is why they get a 1, but it's not quality depth, which is why they don't get any higher than that. At number 5 is going to be the Western Wildcats. Now, this team is absolutely loaded. The only team that's getting a depth score of 3, when you have Ty on your bench, who honestly would probably be in every other team's lineup aside maybe the Dbacks or Eagles, that is pretty impressive. The big question for this team, though, do they have that guy for pitching? Now, their highest rated guy would be Pearson at a 6. I think he's probably going to be their ace. I think Ballman will end up being their number 2 arm. You know, you have Kyle in there, you have Saylor, you have Frenznick, which is just crazy how much depth they have at that spot. Their hitting is absolutely loaded. Kyle, I'm still going to give him a 7 just because he's been elite in the past. He looked great in ALDS, but Saylor, not great last year. Pearson fell off at the end of the year, and then Ballman, I just can't give him higher than a 5. I really need to see him face MLW pitching consistently before I can give him anything higher than that, but he absolutely crushes the ball, and I think he's going to be a great hitter in this league, so don't be surprised if you see all these guys with a 6+ at the end of the year. There was a 3-way tie for second, and I used the first tiebreaker was taking out depth. The second tiebreaker was just who has the best pitching, because there was another tie for 3rd and 4th, and that team that ended up falling short on both of those tiebreakers was the Eastern Eagles. Pitching wise was great last year. Dallas Allen, one of the best guys in the league. He's getting a 9, obviously. And for Blade, I don't know if he's going to be able to duplicate his great pitching performance this year with his odd pitching style, effectively wild thing. I don't know how long that's going to last. The hitting is kind of average. I mean, yes, you got Waylon, who is a very good hitter, but pretty average last year. Dallas Allen is going to hit for average. Dan Schultz has been declining rapidly through these last few years. The guy that could really spark them is Urgaitis, though. I think he's going to to have a huge season. The problem for this team is that they just don't have that guy on offense. Even with how good I think Landon is going to be, I just don't think they have that true guy like a Crash or a Robles or a Tommy or a Jorgensen. It's crazy that the Mallards have 3 of them, or obviously Grant Miller. Their depth is fantastic. I mean, you got your Gators who can pitch, Dan who can pitch, and then hitting-wise, I've Blade Walker sitting on the bench. He's probably the second best 5th bat in the league. Coming in at number 3 is going to be a pretty similar team to the Eagles in my opinion, and that is the downtown Diamondbacks. They're pitching Jimmy Norp. I think he's been pitching as good as he ever has. His drop ball, slider, riser, screwball, whatever, it's all nasty. Trey, I could have taken the same philosophy I did with Bonham and Blade, but I think his pitching is more sustainable. He's more accurate, got more movement on his pitches, so if he can mix it up more, throw that riser more, which I really like, I think he's got one of the best risers in MLW. I said Jimmy's pitching has been as good as it's ever been, but hitting has really been on the decline since 2021 in that MVP season. Norp hits like he did again last year. The Dbacks are not going to be that good this year, because yes, you have Jonah Heath, who's a pretty solid hitter, but he's kind of just average. Jacob Hishka, I think, could take a big step up, and Casey Bennett, kind of the same thing as Heath, although I think he has a little bit of a higher ceiling. In the depth, Trey and Carter are pretty good hitters to have on the bench, and then pitching, I mean, it's insane. You got Heath, you got Pitchko, you got Bennett, even Richard. I mean, all these guys could pitch. It's crazy. This team is very good, and they could easily be on top of the NL next year with an overall score of 38. And then at number 2 is going to be the Pacific Predators, the only team in the league with a guy that has 2 elite scores, both hitting and pitching. That is, of course, going to be Ryan Crash. And now that they got Levi Fleer, who is a great second arm, probably going to be taking over for McGlade in that spot, I think the biggest thing for him is just finding the zone, being able to locate, because he does have a great arsenal and a lot of movement. I think he's great to pair with Cratch. For the lineup, obviously you got Cratch, Russell, Warda, 900 OPS guys. Those guys are getting a 6. And then for the 4-hitter, I don't know if it's going to be Fleer or Rudy. I think it might be Rudy. I just put Levi in there, but I think both would probably get about a 3. Rudy did look pretty good at the end of last year, although I do think he was kind of overrated because he was not good in the playoffs at all, but we will see what he does next year. But with Steve and Rudy, there's actually some decent depth there, which they didn't have last year. They got a depth score of 0 last year when I did these. So that's an improvement, and they will get a overall score of 38. Coming in at number 1 is going to be the Midwest Mallards. With the addition of Brennan Jorgensen, this team is looking as good as they ever have. An overall score of 39. Pitching is looking pretty solid. You got Robles, who gets a score of 7. Holm, who will step into that number 2 role this year. I think Holm can finally be that number 2 arm that steps in and is able to maybe even pitch in the playoffs this year, because Tommy's been looking for that second guy to rely on in the playoffs. Hitting wise, I mean, this is not going to be a problem whatsoever. They got the best offense in MLW. Robles, second best hitter in the league. Coughlin and Jorgensen not too far behind. And you got Preston Colm, who I think is bound to have a really good season. If Colm can bat like 200 with a 750 OPS and have a 2.5 ERA, I think he could do better than that. But if that's what he's giving you, I mean, that's really good, especially considering the other guys that are on this team. And if that happens, I have no doubt the Mallards will be one of the best teams in MLW, just like they are in this ranking. Before I end the video, I wanted to give a shout out to the Scuffed Up podcast. They've had a lot of different MLW players on, great talking wiffle ball or just sports in general. So if you want to see that, click the link in the description. Also, shout out to everybody that was on the IG Live a few days ago. That was really hype. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.